and welcome. And thanks for taking the time to join us today. And I have to say that when we do housing announcements in Toronto, we always pick the warm days. And it's thanks for all of you joining. My name's Adam Vaughan. I'm the Parliamentary Secretary for Families, Children and Social Development and the Parliamentary Secretary for Housing. I'm also the MP for Fort York. I just want to welcome you to the event. And I want to introduce the Honourable Bill Blair, the local Member of Parliament for this area.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our neighborhood and our community, and we are delighted today and very excited for the first time to have the opportunity to welcome the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, my esteemed and remarkably effective colleague, Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, and I'd also like to acknowledge my many caucus colleagues who've also joined me today, who are on the podium behind us. Ladies and gentlemen, every Canadian deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. And here in Scarborough and right across the City of Toronto and along with so many of Canada's big cities, many lower income and middle class Canadians have been struggling to find, maintain and afford a good home and a good place to live. And thanks to Canada's first ever national housing strategy, our government has a plan to help ensure that Canadians have access to the housing that meets their needs. And in our recent budget, we've built upon that promise by promising to increase housing supply and work with our partners to keep home ownership and rental affordable. On behalf of all of the people I have the great honor to serve and all Canadians, we are very excited by today's announcement. And I'd now like to introduce you to a colleague, Councillor Gary Crawford.
You really didn't. Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure for me to be here in my ward in Scarborough Southwest. I too would also like to welcome Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the Honourable Jean-Yves Duclos, of course the Bill Blair, MP Adam Vaughan, and all the other MPs that are here, Mayor John Tory, Deputy Mayor Anna Bailao to Ward 20. It's a very great honor to have you here at 140 Adinak in Scarborough. And I hope the tour that was both informative and eye-opening, and I look forward to the great news that we're about to hear shortly. At this time, I'd like to bring back and welcome Member of Parliament and one of my former colleagues on City Council, Spadina Fort York, MP Adam Vaughan, just to say a few more words.
Thanks very much. And I'd like to introduce the Minister that I have the great honor of working alongside and working for, the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, Minister Duclos. Bienvenue à Toronto. C'est un bon jour. It's a fantastic day for housing, and we owe you a debt of gratitude, the likes of which I hope we will never have to repay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir pour moi d'être ici pour cette annonce importante pour des dizaines de milliers de familles qui vivent à Toronto. A little over a year ago, the Prime Minister made a historic announcement right here in Toronto. He launched Canada's first ever national housing strategy. But it was from the very first day of our government's mandate that we made housing a clear priority. And it is paying off with real results and impacts across the country. Depuis novembre 2015, près d'1 million de familles canadiennes ont plus facilement un endroit sûr et abordable où vivre grâce aux investissements de notre gouvernement dans le logement. And as you will see today, this is just the beginning. This is also part of our plan to grow the middle class in order to grow the economy, a plan which is working. And it is possible because of the leadership of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, to whom we now turn.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jean-Yves, for that introduction and for all your work as Minister of Families, Children and Social Development. I also want to thank Parliamentary Secretary Vaughan. Whether on City Council or in Ottawa, Adam has been a dedicated advocate for affordable housing across Toronto, leading initiatives that have revitalized and reformed everything from co-op to supportive housing. And it's great to be here today with the outstanding MP for Scarborough Southwest, Minister Bill Blair, and members of our incredible team of Toronto MPs. Great to see you all here today. let me all recognize Mayor John Tory, another tireless leader who makes this city stronger. Your advocacy on issues of homelessness and housing for asylum seekers goes to show that when different levels of government work together, we get even better results. Now, Toronto is known for a lot of great things, whether it's cutting-edge innovation or phenomenal sports teams like the Raptors or the Blue Jays, or being a place where diversity is celebrated and valued. But Toronto has a reputation for something else, too, and that's sky-high housing prices. Never mind buying a home, even an apartment is about out of reach for far too many people. When new parents are struggling to find a place they can afford and seniors are worried about making rent, we have to do something about it. That's why today our government is making a historic $1.3 billion investment in Toronto community housing, the largest ever transfer to a municipality for housing. This new money will help repair buildings like this one at 140 Adenac Drive. It's huge news for almost 60,000 families living across the city who are going to see much-needed renovations. After all, having a roof over your head doesn't cut it if the windows won't close or the plumbing is dodgy. My friends, investing in affordable housing is about giving everyone a real and fair chance at success, something that members of my own team know firsthand. When Minister Hussein came to Canada as a refugee from Somalia, he settled in Toronto and lived in community housing as he built a career and a new life. When Minister Haidu ran the largest homeless shelter in northwestern Ontario, she was on the front lines making sure that people had a safe place to stay. That's why investments like this matter. Of course, we know that there's no silver bullet for housing. We're tackling this issue from all sides, whether it's by increasing the supply of housing and keeping rent affordable with the National Housing Strategy, investing to support the fight against homelessness, or helping people buy their first home thanks to new measures in Budget 2019. Unlike the Conservatives, who are too busy stoking division, and we have an example right here, to come up with a plan for the economy, let alone for the housing crunch, our government is focused on making life more affordable for the middle class and for everyone working hard to join it. Dans le cadre de la toute première stratégie nationale sur le logement, on répare et on construit plus de logements abordables à travers notre pays. Notre objectif consiste à réduire l'itinérance chronique de moitié et à construire des nouveaux logements durables à louer. Dans le cadre du budget 2019, on a annoncé l'incitatif à l'achat d'une première propriété, un nouveau programme de prêt hypothécaire auquel la Société canadienne d'hypothèques et de logement va participer. Ce nouvel incitatif va aider les gens à acheter leur première maison et à encourager la construction de nouvelles propriétés en même temps. On a également modernisé le régime d'accession à la propriété. Les Canadiens pourront retirer jusqu'à 35 000 $ de leur REER pour acheter une première maison. Ces mesures s'inscrivent dans notre plan qui vise à aider la classe moyenne et les gens qui travaillent fort pour en faire partie. Once again, it's so great to be back in Toronto. Today's investment is another example of what our government is doing to make a real difference in the lives of hardworking Canadians in Toronto and in communities right across the country. I'm now incredibly pleased to pass it over to Mayor Tory, and then I'll be happy to take questions from media. John.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I too am very pleased to be here in the presence, of course, of the Prime Minister and all the ministers and the members of Parliament and the members of Council who are here, our Deputy Mayor Anna Barlow, our Councillor Gary Crawford, who have all worked so hard to make this day possible. Now, I should begin, if I may, with a respectful correction in the Prime Minister's speech. You'll see when the written version is released that when he mentioned sports teams that are here in Toronto, he mentioned the Raptors and the Blue Jays and just forgot the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I just wanted to make mention of that.
great soccer team.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased and proud to be standing here with these MPs and with these ministers and with the Prime Minister to acknowledge this $1.3 billion investment in Toronto community housing from the National Housing Strategy. This funding over the next 9 years will help us to repair 58,500 housing units and 1,500 buildings across Toronto. But you know, when I stand here, I don't think so much about units or about dollars. I think about the people who are living in those buildings across the city. We met many of them this afternoon. And this is going to make their housing better. This is going to make their lives better. And this is, as the Prime Minister said, and it bears repeating, the largest federal housing investment with a municipal partner in the history of Canada. And I want to just say to the people that live in this Toronto community housing buildings and other residents who share this city with them as fellow residents, this is a great day to make life better, to build up our community, and not just to build it up in terms of repairs and in terms of a better quality of life for people, but it is going to do a lot right here in this very building for accessibility, which is an important issue, and for energy efficiency, which is a very important issue for all of us as we move towards addressing climate change and, quite frankly, move to try and save money so that more of that money can be allocated not to energy bills but to more affordable housing for people. This building alone behind us, 140 Adanac, will receive $5.7 million starting this fall. Not years from now, this fall. The building, as we know, is home to more than 300 people, some of whom we're delighted to have out here with us this afternoon. We'll be fixing the windows. They're 50 years old. We'll be fixing the exterior of the building. We're going to be doing all kinds of things in this building, real fixes for real people. And we're proud of that. And it's coming because the National Housing Strategy was put into place for the first time ever by this government at the urging of a lot of people, including the mayors of cities across the country, and this government responded. We're going to have entrance and lobby and common areas made accessible. We're going to replace the heating and cooling system, improve the ventilation, upgrade the plumbing, upgrade the lighting system. These are all things that we're now able to do thanks to this help, and it's going to be repeated in building after building, community after community, right across this city. And it adds to the money the city is putting in, $313 million this year alone, so that we can fix these buildings. Now, I will say to you, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to this government and thanks to this Prime Minister and these ministers and MPs, this money has been a long time coming, a very long time. These housing units were downloaded onto the city's books many years ago, and as far back as 2007, the City Council recognized the need to repair the buildings, which were by then 35 or 40 years old, but the city couldn't do it alone. And we started at that time to ask for the other governments to help, and during the time between now and then, the backlog of repairs got up as high as $2.6 billion. So we started to make those repairs ourselves, including the $313 million this year alone. But until today, we did not have a partner in making those repairs. We did not have a government that was prepared to step forward and understand that this was going to build back up the strength of this city, that it was going to look after people who had some special challenges in their lives and make sure that they had housing that was in a state of proper repair. And so the federal government, led by this Prime Minister, has come forward and has pledged this money, this huge sum of money, to make sure that we can then take it and invest it responsibly. And it does flow only a year later from the National Housing Strategy, the first in the country's history, that was announced right here in the city by the same Prime Minister just a year ago. And it just shows that the strategy has now reached the stage where it is reality. And construction is going to begin on repairs financed by this money, in addition to the construction that is being financed by our money. And it proves something that has been said by all of the speakers today, and something that I believe in profoundly, that when governments work together, we can get things done for people. And that is what they send us to office to do, whether we work at City Hall or at Queen's Park or in Ottawa. They send us to get things done. They want transit built, they want housing repaired, and they want a host of other things done, and that's what we're here talking about today. And so I want to say thank you to the Minister, I want to say thank you to the Prime Minister, I want to say thank you to the MPs from Toronto who have worked with me, and I have worked with them to lobby hard to make sure that this day came and that we had this investment. Ce gouvernement fédéral dirigé par le Premier ministre est le premier à avoir répondu à l'appel de façon significative grâce à la stratégie nationale du logement qui a été lancée ici à Toronto et Lawrence Heights par le Premier ministre Trudeau. Finalement, notre gouvernement fédéral est redevenu compétitif en matière de logement. You know, I've always believed that one of my most important jobs as the mayor is to put forward the agenda of this city, the things that we need here. And I put it forward, yes, because it's good for the people of the City of Toronto. But this city is also the largest city in the country, and it's Canada's economic engine. And I'm proud of the fact that when this city does well, we're in a position to support other parts of the country just as they have supported us when we don't do well. And today's announcement is proof that the strategy of putting those things forward and working with the people in Ottawa, the Government of Canada, can bear fruit and can do a lot of good things for people. And that is what it's all about. These efforts will make sure that more people have good homes. It represents the very best of how our governments can work together. We are very grateful for the understanding and the determination of this Prime Minister and this government to respond to the needs of the people of the City of Toronto, including some of those who face special challenges, and I thank them for making this happen today. Thank you very much, merci.
Well done. Thank you. Now happy to take some questions from media.
Bonjour, Camille Feyreisen de Radio-Canada. Ma question serait par rapport à la compagnie SNC qui fait appel devant la Cour pour leur permettre d'utiliser une entente hors cours aujourd'hui. J'aimerais savoir, Monsieur le Premier ministre, si vous allez céder aux pressions et demander à votre ministre d'intervenir et de permettre une entente hors cours.
D'abord, au Canada, on est un pays de la règle de droit. On a confiance dans notre système judiciaire et on ne va pas intervenir de façon inappropriée dans les processus qui se passent devant la Cour. Évidemment, comme nous le savons tous maintenant très très clairement à travers le pays, la responsabilité de décider d'intervenir ou non demeure entièrement chez le procureur général et c'est lui qui prendra ses décisions en bonne et due forme, comme on le sait très bien.
Est-ce que je peux juste vous demander de le dire aussi en anglais pour nos collègues, s'il vous plaît?
Obviously, in Canada, we're a country with a strong justice system and an independent judiciary, and we follow the rule of law. As we've all heard many times over these past weeks, it is the role of the Attorney General to make determinations on whether and how to make recommendations to our prosecutors and to our courts, always within the rule of law, always within the respect of our institutions.
Ulta Saintville, CTV National News. As you know, SNC-Lavalin is going back to the federal court to challenge the DPP decision not to issue a deferred prosecution agreement. Does the government support SNC-Lavalin getting a DPA, and is the government still considering issuing one itself?
We have an independent judiciary with strong institutions, and we're a country that follows the rule of law. The courts will follow their appropriate process. The Attorney General, as we've heard many times over the past weeks, has the responsibility to make a determination on whether and how to intervene in matters before the courts, and will exercise that in a way that is rigorous and in keeping with the rule of law.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. My question is about affordable housing. Obviously, this is an announcement to community housing, but Mayor Tory has a housing initiative where he's been looking to surplus lands, and he's been obviously talking to your government about federal surplus lands. Wondering if you are thinking about maybe telling him about those sometime soon.
Absolutely. We put forward a couple of years ago on a day just about as cold as this, a $40 billion national housing strategy that had a number of different aspects to it, including the release of federal lands for affordable housing, but much more than that. We're going to be cutting chronic homelessness by 50% across this country in the coming years. We're investing tangibly in the creation of new affordable housing stock, new rental stock, and most importantly, we're refurbishing existing existing stock. The building behind me is almost 50 years old and requires upgrades to accessibility and a broad range of things. And that's why we are announcing today the largest single investment by the federal government in a municipality for housing in the history of this country, $1.3 billion. Because we know clearly that if people don't have a roof over their heads and security in their housing and an ability to have that housing be accessible, they cannot contribute fully or raise their families right or build the strong future that we all need. That is why this country, this government has been investing in housing. And I talked about the $40 billion national housing strategy. It's actually up to about $50 billion now, because we keep investing in the kinds of things that this country needs in partnerships with great mayors like John Tory right across the country.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. The Foreign Affairs Minister says that there is to be expected some foreign meddling in the October election. What can be done? Your reaction?
We have seen over the past number of years an increase in the interference or the implication of foreign actors in democratic processes. We saw very clearly that countries like Russia are behind a lot of the divisive campaigns, a lot of the divisive social media spreads that have turned our politics even more divisive and more anger-filled than they have been in the past. These are the kinds of things that we are being incredibly vigilant about. Our Minister of Democratic Institutions, Karina Gould, is moving forward on a number of significant ways to ensure that the election that's coming up in 6 months will be decided by Canadians. That is what Canadians expect. We're going to work very hard with all the intelligence communities and our partners around the world to ensure that our democracies stay strong for all the different voices that express themselves within it.
Okay. Prime Minister, the Ontario government is withdrawing funding for some safe injection sites here. There is talk that maybe Ottawa would step in and pick up funding or do something so that those sites can stay open. Is there anything you can say about that?
We are very concerned with the Ford government's talk of shutting down safe injection sites, safe consumption sites. We are a government that believes in evidence-based policy. We know that the evidence is very clear. Safe injection sites save lives. And the fact that the Conservative government in Ontario and indeed Conservative politicians across the country are putting vulnerable people at risk by shutting down consumption sites really makes you wonder where their priorities are. As a federal government, we will continue to work with experts, with frontline responders, and with community organizations and municipalities that are leading on this issue, even if we have, unfortunately, a few governments that, for ideological reasons, are putting people's lives at risk.
Last question.
Afternoon, sir. In terms of the fallout from the SNC-Lavalin affair, once the word broke, is there anything that you regret about the way you handled it? Is there anything you might have done differently now in retrospect?
Oh, I think every day in this job, in our lives, we need to be learning and thinking about how we could do things differently and better. Obviously, this has been a very difficult situation, a question of quite a profound internal disagreement that we have worked for many weeks on trying to resolve, trying to move forward in a way that could keep this team united and focused on the things that matter to us all, whether it's reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, whether it's investment in the middle class and people working hard to join it, whether continuing to demonstrate that diversity is a strength for this country, continuing to play a strong role in the world stage. There are many, many things we're working together, including fighting for a cleaner environment and fighting against climate change by putting a price on pollution right across this country. These are the things that we believe in deeply, and we are continuing as a strong, united team to work on them. So we have put in place new measures to ensure that our team continues to stay strong and stays focused on the things that people matter. That's exactly what we're going to continue to do. It's been an incredible pleasure. Sorry.
What would you have done differently, specifically if you have any regrets, or are you standing by everything you've done?
I think there is a broad range of things we reflect on needing to do better in the future, but the fundamental issue of a disagreement between the former Attorney General and myself and my office was something that we accept existed. We tried very hard to make sure that we were moving forward in the right way. Unfortunately, there was an erosion and a breakdown of trust that proved that we were unable to move forward together. But we're going to continue to focus on the things that matter, like this historic investment in housing for Toronto. Merci beaucoup tout le monde d'être ici aujourd'hui. Thank you all for coming out. Merci.